guys, Yoongi here, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about things I regret during my time as a K-pop stan. I recently made a video talking about how I have been into K-pop for 8 years now, and I know people say you should never live your life with regrets, and I do try to live like that because everything I have done so far has brought me to this point, but that doesn't mean there aren't things I would have done differently, so I'm going to share those with you today, some more specific and some a bit more general. Please note that I will be sharing my personal experiences in this video, and I'm in no way trying to say there is a right or wrong way to do things. I just wanted to take this opportunity to reflect, and I don't think I've seen anybody else do this, so I thought it would be fun. Oh, and also, the videos on screen may not always relate to what I'm talking about. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. First up, let's talk about a big regret of mine, and that is the concerts I didn't go to. Now, I will be honest, I've been very lucky and I've gotten to see a lot of my favourite artists live during my time as a fan, either when they have come to the UK or when I have travelled abroad, etc. But there have been occasions where I haven't had the money at the time to go and see an artist, or if I wasn't into a group very much at the time and then later loved them. So a few examples of these are as follows. FX August 2015 and Top Dog September 2015. I'm mentioning these two together because the reason I didn't attend these concerts was the same. Almost always when K-pop artists come to the UK, they do a show in London only, and I myself do not live in London, so it takes me quite a while to get there. And when both FX and Top Dog came to London in 2015, I was only 16 at the time and had never travelled to London by myself, so I decided not to go to these concerts. And now that I'm older and neither of these groups are active anymore, I really wish I'd have gone to see them when I had the chance and just jumped at the opportunity and figured out the whole travel situation and okayed it with my parents. At the time, I was too scared to even ask. Stray Kids July 2019. When Stray Kids came to London, I wasn't a huge fan of them at the time. I only knew a few songs that I liked. Now 3 years later, I really love them and a lot of their music, so I wish I'd have gone to see them when they were here. Luckily, they're still touring, so hopefully they will announce some European dates soon and I'll get to see them, because when they do announce those dates, I'm going to try and get tickets. Fingers crossed. GOT7 October 2019. This one's a strange one. I always loved GOT7 in my earlier years as a K-pop stan. By the time they came to the UK in 2019, I wasn't as huge as a fan that I was back in the day. And when I considered the costs of both the concert and travel, I decided it wasn't the most feasible for me at the time, unfortunately. And now looking back with nostalgia on how much I loved the group from my earlier days, I do wish I'd have accepted the cost and gone, kind of just for the younger K-pop stan in me's sake. Maybe they'll come back and I'll get to see them sometime. CL November 2021. It was CL and 21 in general who got me into K-pop, so when she announced she was coming to the UK for a little concert late last year, I was really excited. But the only issue was it was such short notice when it was announced, and it sold out so quickly that there was no way I'd have been able to take the time out of work to go see her, which feels like such a missed opportunity now when I reflect upon it. The early K-pop stan in me would have dropped everything to go and see CL if there was more time to do so. This next one is embarrassing, but I'm all about being honest on my channel, so I'm gonna say it. I regret being a little bit of a career boo in my earlier standing days. Please don't hate me. For those who aren't aware, the idea of a career boo in its basic form is somebody who is not Korean but is obsessed with Korean culture to the point of like crazy obsession, where they try to replace a lot of their own culture with Korean. It's often what us K-pop stans are called in a very derogatory way. I think looking back, I do still remember at the time being aware of career boos and not wanting to be like them, but ironically, I think I became one anyway, especially in the earlier days when I'd really gotten into K-pop, mainly because I was just so excited by being into something so new with so much content, so much to learn about. I never did anything crazy, it was mainly being obsessed with the food and clothing and language, etc. It was totally innocent really, and I was a young 15-year-old when I got into K-pop, having fun with my new interest and new friends. I just don't think we knew any better, and now I'm proud to say that I'm a grown adult and I of course know a lot better. Another thing I regret about my time as a K-pop stan is the groups I didn't stan sooner. Similarly to with the concerts, I'm really proud to say I have gotten into a lot of artists and love a lot of different artists during my time as a K-pop stan, but there are some groups I didn't get to enjoy while they were active for as long as others for various reasons, so here's a couple of those. Shiny. Shiny are one of those groups I've known of the entire time I've been into K-pop, and I've liked a lot of their songs over the years, but I never really properly started standing them until like last year, maybe the year before I think. I was watching something on YouTube of them being funny one time in a compilation, and I realised, wait, why aren't I properly standing them? I really like them and their music, so what's holding me back? I don't really know why it took me so long. Maybe because I was focusing a lot of my attention on newer groups as they debuted, I didn't realise there were so many older groups just waiting for me to stan them. BAP. This one is just embarrassing more than anything. Again, I really liked a lot of their music, but I delayed myself getting into BAP even though they were right up my street for some time, because I wasn't seeing so much about them and their music. I was only really seeing articles about the drama with their label TS Entertainment, and it was so messy I decided to just stay away because I didn't really want to get into it. I didn't know where to start. Now when I look back, I completely understand that wasn't fair on them, and in fact the situation with their label shouldn't have pushed me away. It should have pulled me towards them to support them even more when they needed it the most. Stray Kids. They're here again because, like I said earlier, it took a while to get into them for me because I only liked some of their music. But in the past few years or so, I've loved everything they've put out and I've really enjoyed getting to know each of the members and their personalities. So I'm glad I did eventually get into them. I just wish I'd have been able to do so sooner. Next regret of mine during my time as a K-pop stan is some of the albums and photo cards I either sold or gave away. I've spent a lot of money on K-pop and K-pop albums over the years, and when I was seriously collecting them for my favourite artists, I had a pretty big collection, but it was a costly one too. And when I moved out, I needed the extra money, so I sold quite a few of them. And now looking back, I kinda wish I hadn't because I've low-key got a little bit of the album buying bug again, and I've bought a few albums recently for the first time in years, and I can't help but love how fun and pretty they are. Some of the things that I sold that I eventually wish that I hadn't were my 17 carat all members signed 17 album. I had 17's very first album signed by all the members and I sold it. Looking back now at how they're one of my alt groups, I just cannot believe that I did that. I've always liked them since debut, but at the time it was the right choice because I needed the money, and the lovely girl I sent the album to in the USA was a huge carat herself and was really excited to find it. But now the selfish part of me years later wishes that I'd have kept it, considering my luck with 17 is so bad and I never pull my bias photo cards in albums. The very least I could have had was at least his signature. EXO. I sold my Schumann version of Exodus, my Schumann version of the CBX album, the first one, the Schumann version of the Japanese album Coming Over. Can you tell who my bias is, by the way? I think I also sold the War album and a few others. I sold a lot of my EXO albums and Schumann photo cards because I knew a fellow Schumann stan who was willing to take them off my hands, but I still really love EXO and my bias, so I do wish I still had them sometimes. I had a pretty full EXO collection because my friend used to do group orders for them, but not so much anymore, unfortunately. CLC. I met a fellow Cheshire who was looking for some stuff while I was looking for some money, and I ended up selling my CLC Nuclear album, which was one of my favourites. I loved that photo book, and I also sold some Yeon and Seunghee photo cards that I had. I really loved CLC, and I already missed them, so I do still wish I had as much of my collection as possible to sort of remember them by. I do feel like CLC are probably one of those where I'm eventually going to rebuy some stuff if I can find them, just kind of for like memory's sake. This next one again is kind of embarrassing, but in the interest of being as real as possible with you guys, let's discuss. During my time as a K-pop stan, I also regret being a bit of a hater for no reason. When I was a younger K-pop stan, I think it's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind online, especially on stan Twitter and social media. People can be harsh for literally no reason. I know we've all seen it. I mean, just look in some of my comment sections sometimes, people are wild. Now, I never ever left hate comments or anything crazy like that because it's not that I had a major reason to hate these artists. I just didn't like them, which is fine. People are entitled to their opinions, but I must admit, I do remember spending more time focusing on artists I didn't like than anybody should be spending on anything they don't like. I personally think that's just a result of being young and dumb and it being cool to not like things when you're younger. Do you remember that? Like, people encourage people not liking things. And looking back now, I wish I wouldn't have done that and instead would have just put all my love and attention into the artists that I like. I would encourage anybody finding themselves in a similar position to do the same thing too. Rather than focusing on the fandom that yours are always arguing with, just put your love and attention into your faves instead. Okay, now last but not least, let's end on a nice one. Another thing I regret during my time as a K-pop stan is not starting my YouTube channel sooner. I was on stan Twitter a lot in my teen years, and I would spend hours and hours and hours making threads of my favorite K-pop songs at the time, song recommendations, threads to help people get into different artists, threads for different seasons and occasions such as Halloween. Sound familiar? The thought didn't cross my mind that I could have actually done everything I was doing on Twitter in a more separate format such as YouTube, like the channel I have now. I could have been doing that much sooner. I have so much fun with my channel now and I could have been doing this for years. I mean, in a way, I'm sort of glad I started my channel when I did as an adult with a mature outlook on the world and my priorities straight, but it would have been interesting to see what kind of content I'd have made as a teenager, especially because I had so much time to focus on the channel at the time. But hey ho, we're here now and I'm so glad I eventually started my channel when I did. Regardless of when it was, I'm just happy that I now finally have. Okay guys, and that was it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching if you got this far. I appreciate you taking the time to hear me talk about myself. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you by any chance have any regrets during your time as a K-pop stan that you can think of? If you're new here and have not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button down below and turn on the notification bell to be the first to hear whenever I upload. And as always, my social medias will be on screen if you'd like to give them a follow. I always follow back fellow K-pop stans, so let's be friends. And I'll see you next time. Bye guys!